Our presentation tonight is Bruce Bohm from the South Chickamauga Creek Greenway Alliance. As you can see from the screen, he is a Chattanooga area resident since 1981. He was born and raised in Demorest, New Jersey, and spent summers in the eastern Pocono Mountains. He is a big fan of native plants, natural places, and active in all things outdoors. He is the Trails Committee Chair of the Friends of South Cumberland State Park. He is a certified Tennessee State Naturalist. He is the Treasurer of the Chattanooga Tree Commission, and he is the Secretary of the South Chickamauga Creek Greenway Alliance. Bruce, the floor is yours.
Why, thank you. And Susan, a great pleasure. I appreciate you asking me and sharing the time with everybody here tonight on, let's see, I'm just going to get right into it and say there's really two things I'm going to focus on tonight. Hopefully I hit them all in the proper depth so everybody gets a little bit of information, and I love questions if I can possibly address those. So thank you very much. And our logo, you can see, is something outdoors representing the South Chickamauga Creek. The words Greenway Alliance, I think you'll understand what that is by the time I'm done tonight. I can't say enough about how that is important, because we consider the Master Gardeners part of our alliance, because we have members who come from the Master Gardeners and help us with our meetings, help us with our volunteer work, and invite us in to do things with the Master Gardeners when we're out there at some of the events that you guys participate in. So that is by far and away one of the most important things. I think that we're an alliance. And I noticed, fascinating, congratulations, Tom, and everybody who's a member of the local chapter, that it's been 25 years as of 2019 for the organization here in Chattanooga, and that's fantastic. You know, as volunteers, getting trained in the gardening aspect, and mainly going out after that and educating and advising people is the mission, as I see it. And I can't see too much different about what we do. I feel like we're sister organizations. We do the science and the outdoor, more of a naturalist thing, in addition to the plants. But we spend a whole lot of time educating the public and advising people as best we can. So it's great to be, you know, sisters and brothers in the efforts here to take care of our plant and natural life. But and also we're about the same age. South Chickamauga Creek Greenway Alliance was formed in 1993, and we met regularly ever since. And I want to shout out to Sandy Kurtz, who's our chairperson. Some of you may know her. She is all things South Chickamauga Creek Greenway Alliance, and has been for the last 25 years. And thankfully she has done that, because nobody has done more for our advocacy than Sandy has. And she'll show up at commission meetings. She'll show up at talking to state representatives, governors. She'll be in the creek with kids, helping them understand what goes on with our natural world. She is just a dynamo and relentless and indomitable in how she works and does what she does. So I serve as the secretary, which is really a minor role, but the rest of us are all linked arms. So who we are, we're an interstate volunteer citizen group, and we're advocates just for the preservation, protection, and improvement of the environmental quality of the South Chickamauga Creek watershed and its many cultural and natural features. And we'll certainly expose you to some of those tonight as I talk more about it. When do we meet? We meet every fourth Wednesday of every month except December. Hint, hint. And you can join us too. Typically, we're meeting at Wally's East Ridge. All manner of outdoor meetings, activities, and advocacy throughout the year. But Wally's East Ridge is our kind of lunch meeting site. We love to get the good food going and have some good camaraderie as we meet each fourth Wednesday of every month. Right now, like the Master Gardeners, we are going online. So very similar in that respect as well. It's not our favorite thing to do, but it's worked pretty well. And thankfully, we can do what we're doing tonight too. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about the watershed, as I mentioned, and then the second thing we'll hit on is the Greenway. So you'll hear all about both of those because I think that's of great interest to a number of people. May not know as much as they want to about it. But as you look here, I'm going to, let's see if I can get, well, I'll wait and do that later. So that green spot, that is the entire watershed. It's big. It's real big. It's 250,000 acres. It's 436 miles of tributaries. And it basically is the lungs of the water for us as a Chattanooga community. It's the largest. It's the most diverse. It's the most important from the wildlife and the flora perspective. So I'll just try to give you an idea where those are as reference points. You know, as many of you know, watersheds basically gather water. And so what happens when water hits Missionary Ridge, for example, it either goes one way down towards the city or it goes the other way into the South Chickamauga Creek watershed. I live in a community right on the side of the ridge. And so I'm in the watershed because I'm on the east side of the ridge. So right there's your boundary on one side of it. Lookout Mountain forms one of the formidable ways that the water comes towards the watershed. I hope many of you have heard of, if you've not been there, Pigeon Mountain down in Walker County is one of the big ones. And then some of the other ridges, you know, are a little more subtle, but right here, Rocky Face is one that separates it from Dalton, and White Oak Mountain, as many of you know, driving up towards Knoxville, you cross White Oak Mountain. So those are good landmarks to think about when you think about how vast it is. So I'd say for those of us here in Chattanooga area, we're in this watershed every single day if you're driving anywhere. Couple of landmarks. I just thought it would be nice to put a couple out there. The Lost Mound Road, Amnicola Highway, may or may not know where that is, but that is where the entire watershed empties into the Tennessee River. And you'll be driving down Amnicola Highway and you'll be passing really the safety lane. I don't know if anybody's remembering that. The police station out there is very close, but you'll go across a bridge that you hardly notice because it's flat just like the highway, but there's a sign that says South Chickamauga Creek, and you just hop off there at Lost Mound Road and you go right out to the Tennessee River, and there it all comes. Shallow Ford. I'm going to see if I can zoom in on this. Yeah. Okay, I don't know if everybody sees that well enough, but see that little curl in the path of the creek? That's South Chickamauga Creek. That's kind of a big bend right there. That's what's known as the Shallow Ford. We drive across it every day now when we go across from 153 to the downtown area if you take Shallowford Road, but it is what most people don't realize, a shallow ford. Native Americans, early settlers, soldiers during the Civil War, if they were going to cross South Chickamauga Creek, they were going to do it at what? The shallow ford. So that was a major pathway to get from one side of the creek to the other. So I just think that's a pretty good landmark for people to notice when they drive across Shallowford Road. Graysville Mill down in Ringgold, Catoosa County. A lot of us come into the Chattanooga area from North Georgia. And if we're going to Hamilton Place, for example, that's a little bit of a shortcut. And you have to go past Graysville Mill. So that's the area where you might see Graysville Mill. And then I want to take you all the way down into the furthest point of the watershed, down to McLemore's Cove. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful area. And I'm going to highlight one of the spots, if you've never been there, called the Pocket. It's stunning. And if you're ever there the first week in April or thereabouts, you will see some wildflowers like, I don't know that there's another place I've ever been with such a beautiful, amazing display of wildflowers. So this right here is what I consider the headwaters of the watershed. And the flora and the fauna of that area is blessed with a tremendous amount of water and thrives in that way. Just a couple more things about the reference point. I think what I'd also like for you to know is just a little perspective. If you're going from the confluence with the Tennessee River all the way down to McLemore's Cove where it begins, you're going to drive about 30 miles. And I may have mentioned it already, but the important thing is all this area, all these tributaries, all these creeks, everything that flows in that creek ends up coming into the Tennessee River right down where the intake pipes are for our Tennessee American Water Company. So good reason to think about the importance of our water, good reason to think about how we might make sure that we take care of it. And there's so many ways to do that. And you all are part of that, just being what I consider to be stewards of our flora and learning about the science and the art of our plant life. So thank you everyone for being a part of that. So just a little closer look here. I think I can do this with another zoom, and I hope this does what I think it should. More reference points. That right there, again, is where the water pours into the Tennessee River at Lost Mountain Road in Amnicola. I'm going to try to do my little pointer, my laser pointer. Yeah, there we go. That right there, for a lot of people may not realize, the entire Volkswagen Enterprise South area is within the South Chickamauga Creek watershed. All the Amazon facilities, everything in the nature park, that's it represented on the map right there. And Poe Creek flows right out of there into the South Chick Creek and provides that drainage for that area. And we thank Volkswagen for helping restore some of the wetlands. And I'll talk a little bit about some other things that are being done by one of our alliance partners up there that I think is one of the more exciting things that we've seen in a while, that is aimed at the children and getting some of them educated in the outdoors and water protection. Let's see, Camp Jordan. We'll talk about that in terms of the Greenway. That's right there. The airport right here. And if you can see this right where the pointer is, that is Audubon Acres. So just some landmarks, and the entire military park down in Fort Oglethorpe, and that area is within the park, and there are all kinds of tributaries that flow through there. So just wanted to acquaint you with the logistics of where the watershed is. Let's see, I'm going to turn off my marker, I hope. Yeah, there we go. Now it'll click me through. Also within the entire area there, we have 19 listings or more by now. The historic places. We care greatly about preserving the Audubon Acres, the military park, John Ross House, and many, many, many more things that represent cultural assets as well as natural assets. So that's part of what we do. Just another quick word about that place called The Pocket, Shirley Windmiller Wildflower Trail. An amazing waterfall, a boardwalk that you get probably the best view you could possibly get of the wildflower display that comes probably about a week or two after these people were there, is right down there in Walker County. And for anybody who needs that information, I point you there gladly. As you can imagine, in April this year, it was rather popular given the fact that everybody was locked in and wanted to get outside into parks. So it was just magnificent. So that's part one. Part two is since those members of the Greenway Alliance first envisioned their organization, their clear vision was to help extend a greenway along the creek all the way from the military park to the Tennessee River, where I pointed out just a few minutes ago, Lost Mountain Road. Since their inception, the Greenway Alliance has worked to promote the Greenway with all the agencies and government. Extremely important partner with the Trust for Public Land, nonprofits of all kinds, businesses, industries, technical groups, property owners, and Greenway groups and users like you and me who like to bike, hike, and paddle all the way, from Georgia to Tennessee to try to make this thing happen. So that was the vision. And I'm happy to report as 3 years into their existence, the organization came up with a master plan back in 1996. And that was the fruit of a vision that really started in 1996. So you can say, wow, 25 years to do this. Well, yes, 25 years to do this. And we'll show you kind of where things are at. But it's a magnificent outcome, and for the generations that follow us. So most definitely the important partner that exists now and existed then to help make this happen was the Trust for Public Land. Some of you may know they have a small office in a bungalow house down on Tremont Street, just off of Fraser Avenue, and have for years and years and years. They are the smarts, the construction design people. They are the partnership people. They are the funding people. They're the ones that help make this go. And they were here in 1996 for the very first time to help us get started on this. They've gone on to do more projects around Chattanooga than you can count. But we were kind of their birthing project that enabled them to set up an office here in Chattanooga back in 1996. And some of you may know David Johnson and others who are involved with the project that we'll talk a little bit more about. So the Greenway, it is in existence. It's going to, in final form for this first piece of it, it's going to be 12 miles long. Currently, there are 9 miles complete. I use it all the time. This dotted line doesn't exist anymore. That's an orange line. It provides you with an access point, which that picture to the left shows you from the Riverwalk at Lost Mound Road. You can just hop on the Riverwalk from downtown, go out to Lost Mound Road where this Riverwalk goes, and then turn right, and you're on to the Greenway. And I think I can do that pointer again. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So that sign is right there. And basically you turn right, you go right next to the creek, all the way in, and just follow that until you get to a magnificent, huge bridge that was floated down on a barge to connect the Greenway from one side of the creek to the other. Monstrous project. Floated it up the Tennessee River and installed it about 3 years ago. Continue on here, and then you get to what's known as Faith Road, and this is the gap that's being worked on currently. And I'll tell you more about that right now. And over here on the right side is a picture of the construction that's currently underway. There's a blue fence and some concrete sidewalk that's widening the sidewalk. That's traversing Shallowford Road right here. And then it continues from there across the levee, all the way down until you go underneath I-75, and then you're entering into the Camp Jordan area and circling around that pathway, that paved pathway that is there. So that's the vision that is getting ready to be complete. I'm very, very excited. We'll talk some more about when and how that gets done. But that's a little orientation. And as you can see, there is Shallowford Road, and there is the Shallow Ford right there. So you're going to cross right alongside the Greenway. And Lost Mound, as I mentioned, is right there. And then again, Tennessee American Water flows right down the side of the river and into their intake pipes right there. So once again, there's a sign, keep your eye out for it. I wouldn't call it magnificent. I think we need a kiosk, something big with a little roof on it that talks about the Greenway, but at least that's there.
Bruce, we have one question.
Yes.
There was a dotted line in the middle of the road. This is a question from Shirley Stewart. Can you use that during the construction? Is that dotted line mean there's nothing there, or is there, I guess.
Good question. So Yeah, and say her first name again.
Shirley.
Shirley. Shirley, right now, I'm going to just liven up my marker again so I can be real clear with you. This is not passable, the dotted line that I'm going down, except for the piece on Shallowford Road. You can cross that. So traversing Shallowford Road from where it's going to connect is passable, and then you get on the levee there. But right now, this is in the woods. I'll show you a couple pictures. So it's not available yet, but I'll give you some more information about that shortly.
Okay.
So I hope that answered your question. All right.
Shirley, you can ask more later. And also, are there plans to connect with the Tennessee River Walk?
Yes, and just to clarify what I was attempting to say earlier, it is connected. Right here is the Riverwalk, where the Lost Mound Road is. If you go down the Riverwalk by bike, by run, by stroller, rollerblade, whatever you want to do, you can turn right, and this is connected. So that dotted line is old news. This is all done. You can go all the way down to, this is about a 4.5 mile stretch right here, and that's open. And then you get to a point where you can exit off on Faith Road, which is, you'd need to shuttle your car if you're going to just go one way, but I usually go in and back out just for my own enjoyment. So I hope that answers that question.
Okay, great.
Okay. We can come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, there it is. And here's the sections that we talked about that are currently under construction. For our benefit, I called and spoke or emailed David Johnson and said, David, I know somebody's going to ask me the question, and I want to know too. When are we going to be done? And so I quoted him directly from his email. I cut and pasted it. So right now, the full Greenway is expected to be completed in late spring this coming year. So wow. That will permit you to leave the Riverwalk and go all the way to Camp Jordan. And I'm very excited about that. So that's pretty much the story as far as the current effort on the Greenway. I did want to say, here's a picture of what's actually being done. Part of the big deal of this section is there's probably 3 or 4 train trestles that cross the creek, and we have to navigate up and around them or down and below them. And there's nothing more challenging than doing just that short little 100-foot section right there, because it's safety, it's security, it's the railroads. They don't move fast. They don't want anything. They don't want to do it if they don't have to. There's a lot to be done in order to get access and permission and certified to be able to make these moves. So the good news is they're getting it done. That's another picture. The reason I wanted to show you this one is it's going to be primarily boardwalk going through many sections, which is very, very smooth, very nice to go on, so as not to disturb the land, the flora, the plant life, the animal life, as opposed to going in and digging and disrupting the soil, which I'm sure many of you know how difficult that can be for plants once it's disturbed. So one thing that they are doing is the more expensive, the more difficult, the more challenging, but by far and away better for our natural assets. So this is so the vision of 1996 was to just make one run down to the military park after we get to Camp Jordan, and we're just about to Camp Jordan. What I wanted to point out is I was part and parcel to a meeting with the North Georgia Economic Development Organization, who funded a study in 2017, and their vision is much, much bigger. And I'm so excited about this. There's almost 50 miles of multimodal greenways that are planned in North Georgia to connect to Camp Jordan. Things that we get us easily to the Fort Oglethorpe area, we hope to, and then monstrously more than that. So for anybody who's interested, I have the full report and the various counties and government agencies are working on each piece they can to make this happen. And the important part is it starts with a vision. And so that's an enormous, exciting thing for me. And you can, like I said, at the end, if somebody wanted the resource, we have it available. It's public information. They looked at economics as well as feasibility and safety and everything, and put together a magnificent plan. So that's the add-on to the Greenway once we get complete. So, back to plant life and flora. One of the things we know is everything's connected. And so by protecting the water, protecting the watershed, we stand to be able to keep and protect our wildlife and our natural assets that we depend on so heavily. That's one of the things we do also. Down in the left corner, and we could probably use some help on this from the master gardeners, we do have some very astute plant people and gardeners, but we like to put in pollinator patches all along the way. And anytime we do that, we know it's a challenge, as many of you know. I don't know if Ann Brown's familiar to anybody, but she's one of the ones that has helped us thus far. And she's an excellent gardener, and she manages several other patches. So we're going to continue to do what we call pollinator patches and flyways, I guess is what it's referred to as. So, and just to kind of harken way back, I went to the library and found this map. And this is a map from the 1830s and before, prior to the Trail of Tears. This is the way the Native Americans had the land broken up. And you can see down in that same area where our watershed is was known as the Chickamauga district within the Native American community. And there is that little not so clear map of the creek, but I wanted to just show you that because that was obviously a very, very important geographic and community area for the Native Americans, and it should tell us something about our own care of the area. So the approximate location of the outflow is up there. This one as well is a map. Let me see if I can find it. There we go. We're building out here. Sorry. Those two circles up high, this is the Tennessee River, and there's see how they spelled it much differently. Chickamauga River, they called it in 1864. This was a military map. They described that area right there off of Amnicola Highway as cultivated and farms. And the reason that was so important is because you had a constant flooding that brought soil back up onto the banks of both the creek and also the river banks, and made it very, very fertile soil for people to cultivate their crops. And so that's another point of interest for the geography. There's the creek as the arrow's pointing to. I'm sorry, I don't know what that one is. And this is just a beautiful picture. If you're ever out there on the Greenway and you get a chance to show up on a morning like this, it's one of the more peaceful places you could spend time. It's just beautiful. And you'll see the life and the aura of how beautiful the watershed can be, especially next to the creek where there are fish and living things all participating in the balance. One of my favorite quotes from one of the famous Tennesseans from Chattanooga, actually. Well, actually, he went to school here. He's from another part of the state, actually. But Howard Baker once quoted, "The seemingly separable types of aquatic systems are, we now know, interrelated and interdependent. We cannot expect to preserve the remaining qualities of our water resources without providing appropriate protection for the entire resource." I would say plant life falls right in there as being inseparable from our water. This is me over here. I was getting ready to go for a paddle. These are some fishermen along the creek over there at Sturkey Farm, if you've never been there. It's a beautiful spot. And I just happened to see some beautiful ironweed. That particular day, I had osprey following me, 2 of them. They just kept following me down the creek as I paddled. It was really, really cool. There's some cardinal flowers. Part of the Greenway was under construction that has already been finished. You can see that, how it's put up on stilts and keeps above both the flooding that needs to happen for the health of the area, but also from disturbing the ground. Our organization plants a lot of trees. So as we can, we put in some native trees along the way so that it can further preserve and protect the watershed, especially a riparian buffer right at the edge of the creek. Just some things to note. There's a lot of wildlife. This is from one of our partners in the alliance with the Tennessee Valley Canoe Club down in Walker County. They spotted a bobcat on their morning paddle. These are some of the folks in our group that come together for various events where we're going in and checking the population of the fish, trying to see what's in there and the species that are present. Some of the rare species that you can find in there include the snail darter and some others. Just for a minute, those of you who are out there and don't mind trying to put something in the chat, any idea what that is right there? We'll take any and all answers.
Garfish.
Very good. Very good. Great answer. That is.
I typed it quicker than you said it.
It was really cool. We were seining the population, and sure enough, way up there, probably, it was in Georgia actually. That little guy got netted and put in our little fish tank here as we spent some time looking at him. It was very cool. Something we do is we partner with the wild ones and do weed wrangles, which helps curtail some of the privets and the ivies and things that are getting in there and disrupting our native plants. So that's another picture of me. I happen to be smiling at that point after a long day. We work towards preserving land down in Graysville. We're hoping to get the current owner of the Graysville Mill house and dam to somehow partner up with Catoosa County's government and create a nature park where right now it's privately owned and at risk of development. So we certainly want to provide some means by which we can help partner in preserving some more of the land around the creek and particularly around that Graysville Mill. Many people partner up during the Tennessee River Rescue, and we're no exception. At least 2 tributaries have staff, volunteers, like this young woman who is there on her paddleboard, amazing me as she collected way more than she weighed onto that paddleboard and managed to keep it on top. And that's in South Chickamauga Creek as well. Something I did want to point out is one of our partners, the Waterways Organization, formerly My Tennessee, meaning SEA, and Mary Beth Sutton. She's been very involved with all kinds of organizations around town. She's a regular partner in our alliance, and right now out at the Volkswagen facility, she's got a new pavilion, and she's going to be teaching children about outdoor nature and water quality and animals and flora. And for anybody in the city of Chattanooga, she's currently offering a $100 gift certificate entry for anybody who would like to help preserve our watershed by taking their guidelines on making their yard creek friendly. And if you're in the city of Chattanooga, you can probably get some financial help from the city. So I just wanted to give her a shout out and the organization, and if you're interested in that program, it's called My Waterways, My Tennessee Clean Water. And you just go to their website right there. And there's the offer. And I think it's good through November 1st. So you might want to get in on that. I'm currently a bronze qualifier. So if I upgrade to silver, I'm eligible for an entry in that gift certificate as well. And that includes native plants as one of the most important things you can do in your yard. This is me again. I wanted to just talk a little bit about the paddling, because there's nobody who knows the creek better than somebody who's on the creek with their paddle and in their boat and seeing all the beautiful things along the way and some of the things that we need to do differently. But the Tennessee Valley Canoe Club is one of our alliance partners. They help with the cleanups. They run absolutely fabulous events all over the South Chickamauga Creek watershed that if you're not an experienced paddler, I'd say sign up. $20 a year, you're going to get some of the best tours, some of the best guidance and safety for paddling that you could get anywhere in this country. So TVCC is one of our alliance partners, and I've enjoyed countless numbers of paddles with Eric and BG and some others that are really, really, really good at what they do. They clear it, they make sure it's ready, they know when the water's the right height, and they help with shuttle. It's one of the most powerful organizations for outdoors around Chattanooga. And there's an example of all those in yellow are within the watershed that I'm talking about tonight. They run 5 different paddles this season, and they have them all lined up by date. So, and that, by the way, is the Gordon Mill down in Chickamauga. Can't commend them enough. Just another shout out for Sandy Kurtz. She's up there in front helping us with a facilitated meeting for Graysville, trying to bring people together to conserve that land around the dam. One of our partners is the Catoosa County Conservation District. So we're an interstate organization. My friend Sophia, she makes it a point to be involved with our organization so that she can help her agency do better with connecting in communities and running programs. So that's some of the people that show up at lunch and collaborate with us each time. The Nature Conservancy, one of the big organizations around the country, both Tennessee and Georgia, they come to our meetings and help us with something like the Graysville Mill project. And this cedar waxwing, as you can see, represents a beautiful species of our bird population, and the Tennessee Ornithological Society. Mr. Gaddy and others come to our meetings, and we also consider them a part of our alliance. City of Chattanooga, Hamilton County, the water quality divisions, they come. So it's a safe place for people to come together and do something good. And as an alliance, make something big happen. Some of the parts is, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts in this case. That's just a picture of the mill. This is the Blue Way. I may have talked about that. This is where different canoe launches exist all the way down through Georgia on West Chickamauga Creek, down to Chickamauga, over at Camp Jordan, and various places like that. I can furnish this information to anybody who's interested. That's me, or that's my bike, and that was along the Greenway during one of our high water periods. I got stopped. I had to turn around and go the other way. That Corona is not something I drank. I was just cleaning up. It was on the Greenway. I mentioned we do pollinator patches. Here's our plan that we used on the Hawthorne trailhead. A lot of those plants are things that you know a lot more about than I do, but I absolutely love them. And it's a big job doing a pollinator garden. So we'd appreciate anybody who's interested in being a part of what we do. So I'm going to end it right there. Once again, I just want to thank everybody for having an interest in the Master Gardener program and giving us an opportunity to share what we do as sister organizations. Thank you. Yeah, if you just simply Google the Pocket, North Georgia, it's going to show you lots of resources. It's state property. They manage it, so you should be able to find that pretty easily. There are actually a number of trails that launch off of that little loop, and you can actually, there are campsites up on top of Pigeon Mountain if somebody likes to hike. But by far and away, the highlight at April is that little cove down at the bottom where the waterfall is. I forgot to show everybody, I've got my official South Chickamauga Creek Greenway Alliance t-shirt on.
Oh, hey.
And for you, Ron, I've got a kingfisher on there, you see?
I do. Thank you.
Sturkey Farm, is it S-T-I-R-K? You had it up there briefly.
Yeah, it's S-T-E-R-C-H-I. It's in Tennessee. It's managed by the city of Chattanooga. It's got a canoe launch. It's got the pavilion. It's got a little kid area there for kind of playing on some logs and things like that. And then it's got the bathrooms. And then it's really a nice place to go for a short stroll both ways and feel like you're out there and you're not far from your home, really. It's why we really feel passionate about the alliances, to see things like that for our next generations and for us.
I appreciate it, Bruce. That's great info, and I really enjoyed your presentation, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you and good night.